only get one through.
So welcome everybody to the next session, which is with our on teams with our community.
Oh, so
it's going to go off again. Great, it's really handy. Could you just get on it until the hearings are finished?
Can hear you at the moment.
Right, Warwick, hello. It's actually, the first up is actually Shepherd Charter. Peter, are you with us?
I am, and I think Terry is.
Yes,
I've just come back on now, thank you.
All right, thank you, Terry and Gary. Look, what happened was having a generator test. So hopefully we'll delay the conclusion of that test until after the hearings are finished, if possible. So it wasn't the most timely piece of activity. So I'm now resuming the hearings and welcome Peter Pritchard. Welcome, Peter. You're at mutual visual, please, Warwick. Can't hear you. Mute your visual, please, Warwick. We are, Peter, you're on. Peter, you've got the floor.
okay, thank you. Good morning, Your Worship, councillors and staff. In the interest of time, I want to speak to you about just one item on our submission, and that is in relation to the community library. I was actually the guest speaker at a little function that the Library Committee put on a few years ago to celebrate their 40th anniversary of providing a library service to the people of Coromandel. As I told them that day, unless it's a prison sentence, doing something for 40 continuous years is quite an achievement, and it means two things. One, you're providing a service that people value and want, and two, that there's good management. It's the second point, good management, that brings this item to your attention today. The Treasurer and Chairperson have identified a potential issue that, if left unchecked, will affect the first point, which is good service. Our local library is run by volunteers, and for many, many years, they have had a good fortune of having a long-standing chairperson who was also a qualified librarian. When Carleen Carmichael left town, the library then had to pay its first staff member and employ a librarian who is doing an excellent job of bringing the library up to a modern day standard. They now have a social media presence, workplace health and safety policies in place, and the library is now a member of the TCDC book exchange service called Kotui. Kotui has been a double-edged sword. The library has a rich and diverse collection of books, including complete sets of some authors, and the availability of its entire collection to all the other libraries in the district means its collection is in demand. This has an adverse effect as our ward has the largest geographical area, but the smallest population base. Out-of-town borrowers pay the out-of-town library to order a book. There are substantially more out-of-town readers using the service than locals, so it's become a negative cash drain. The item in the submission is to grant the library a one-off sum to buy them some time to reorganise their affairs to address a declining financial balance. It is because of their astute financial awareness that they have been able to identify this issue early on, and I applaud them for having the courage to do so. The CCC are grateful for them seeking assistance before the issue becomes critical. We have every confidence that this step will enable any and all alternatives to be considered by the library to make it available for future generations to also enjoy. So thank you for your consideration.
So Peter, can I just ask, what's actually draining the money out? Is it the cost of sending these books to people, or what is it?
That's part of it, Sandra, but the cash drain means your expenses are more than your income, obviously, and they're having to reorganise their income stream. And things like they have a $10 annual subsidy for subs for the entire family, and they're looking at doubling that to $20 per family. They're looking at tapping into other revenue streams like grants and things from the pokey machines and all that kind of stuff, which they've never had to do before. And it's the ongoing expense of a librarian. You know, you'll hear from them later on. They're also submitting as well on the same matter. So you'll hear about that a bit more. But basically, the cost of running the service are exceeding their income.
Okay, and that's since they moved to a paid librarian as opposed to using volunteers. Is that guys?
That's the lion's share of it. Yes, that's a huge part. But also the Kotui system means they're paying courier fees to send books around the library, and they're not getting around the district rather, and they're not receiving the income for that because that income goes to the out-of-town libraries. So that is part of the drain, but it's not the main reason. The main reason is the cost of a librarian. And
could you operate without a paid librarian with volunteers again?
I would leave that question to them. I'm not in a position to really answer that, but I doubt it would be my feeling.
Okay, thank you. And then
Peter, does the library serve a lot of young people?
It's a growing area. They are encouraging it. They're working with the school, which also has quite a good library, and they're trying to get the youth on board. But it's hard. It's hard to get the youth on board.
So if they had additional funding, do you think it would help to get youth on board?
It would help to keep a librarian who could keep campaigning to get the youth on board, that's for sure.
Okay, any other questions? There being none, thank you, Peter, appreciate it.
You're welcome, thank you.
Tidy up in bed, would you? Now, Warwick, welcome.
Sorry, I'm just drinking cheese.
Warwick, you there, Warwick Brooks? Could you, I'll move on to Ken. Ken Coolum, are you available? Cool. Ken, you have the microphone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here and I'm ready to go. So good morning, Your Worship and councillors. Rather short submission this year, and that sort of reflects the annual plan, isn't for all the big plans. So in terms of the boat launching fees and parking fees, the board is supporting that in a qualified manner on the basis that any extra fees and revenue from that area needs to go back into boating relating activities, so that the boaties can see that they're paying some extra money, but they're actually getting a benefit. So we don't want to see cross subsidisation of the wharves or other areas. We want the money to go back to benefit those who are paying the increased fees. It's quite a controversial one in the community. There are a number of people who don't support it at all, but the board was saying, yes, if it goes back in the right area, we'll go along with that. In terms of the capital works program, we recognise that the last 2 years has been very difficult for construction and at the moment supply chain issues. We've been told that our 3 public toilets that we're having done up, or a new one this year, are going to be completed by the 30th of June. I just have some doubts as to whether that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen by the 30th of June, I want to make sure that the money's there to be carried forward to finish them in the coming year. In the same category would be the boardwalk along the Esplanade, where there's great difficulty getting the right amount of timber for that. So any of those capital programs, they're important for the community. If they're not done by the 30th of June, I'd like to see them carried forward. In terms of next year's capital program, I know there'll be pressure to reduce that, but we've got money in the coming years for stormwater improvements in Whangamata. My concern is if this 3 water thing goes the way it may go, projects like that will be seen, or won't even be seen, on the radar of some entity B based somewhere. So I think we should continue with working on those projects. Don't drop them off. They're in the plan. The community's been waiting for a long time to have that infrastructure improvement done for the stormwater. Get on with it and make sure it's done before possibly the whole thing disappears. The only other final comment on behalf of the board, it's not one of the board submissions, but the Whangamata Information Centre has put in a request for funding to be increased. The board is supporting that, in that we see that the Information Centre plays a vital role with visitors from overseas starting to return as of today. It's important that it's given the additional resource to make sure it can do its role. So that, I think that's submission 172, so the board's supporting that in principle. That's all, Your Worship, from the Whangamata Community Board.
Excellent, that's very good, Ken. I'll ask if there are any questions of Ken, and particularly from Terry and Gary who are online.
He's answered the questions. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
So, who's this person? Right, thanks, Ken. Right, who's have you got Warwick back? Warwick.
Yes, Warwick is with Eileen.
Do you want to unmute Warwick?
He should be going now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why are you together? Oh, right.
Oh, yes. Sharing expenses. Good morning, Your Worship and councillors. I am submitting on behalf of the Taira Paranui Community Board. We support the introduction of the boat ramp fees at Royal Billy Point, at Paranui and at Taira Wharf. In addition, we would like to include the Pleasant Point boat ramp at Paranui in these charges. We are unsure about the introduction of the boat launching fees and an increase in the daily boat trailer parking fees at the 9 boat ramps specified in the consultation document. This is because we don't know what the local issues are at those various ramps. The Taira Paranui Board supports the introduction and increased fees for Royal Billy, Pleasant Point only. However, in Taira, we have a severe lack of suitable boat trailer parking area available. So currently, until these issues are addressed, we cannot justify bringing in these charges. Yes, the Taira Paranui Community Board support the proposed changes to our wharf fees and applying the same fees across the district. The capital works, our board would like to make sure that the staff ensures that all the 2021-2022 unfinished capex works are carried forward to 2022-2023. And in additional comment, our board supports the endeavours of both the Tyro Resident and Ratepayer Society and the Tyro Walk Society on their efforts to achieve the footpath along the main road to the footbridge. And that's us. Thank you.
Thank you, Warwick. We just have questions, Warwick. Murray.
Warwick, in view of the fact that the population is increasing on the eastern seaboard and boats are getting bigger, do you think the boat trailer parking issue will ever be resolved?
Well, I'd like to think so. Otherwise,
Sorry, Warwick, that's not the question whether you like to. Do you think it will ever be resolved or not? Have you got the land?
at the moment, no.
So do I take it you don't think the issue will ever be, you're not answering my question. I take it you think the issue will never be resolved.
I would like to think we can address this in the future.
So would you be thinking of reclamation?
Yes. Am I allowed to use that word?
Yes.
Yes, you are. That's why I asked the question, because that is the only way you're going to get land.
Correct.
So can I ask a further question?
Actually, no, it's not.
So you think the financial viability of going through the consenting process and doing a recreation is viable to park vehicles on?
Well, the option I was looking at was a green open space, not only to address the boat parking, but create further reserves, picnic areas, an area for family to enjoy barbecues, because currently we do suffer from the lack of suitable reserve land.
Can I ask a further question? You made a comment that boat trailing parking is not available, so you cannot justify charge until this is available. Where do you see your solution?
Oh. Well, reclamation is obviously one, but I don't see another until we can address this.
Thank you.
Do you see the idea of a park and ride as being a possible solution like they have at Cathedral Cove, where there's an area of land put aside for parking, but there is transport available to the actual point of destination?
Oh, not really. No, I don't. It needs further investigation.
Thank you. Terry has a question.
Yes, Warwick, my question is, do you think it's fair to be able to pay for boat charges without the parking areas available?
Well, we're only talking about Tyro. In Pawanui, they don't have the same problem we've got. So, yeah, I'm open to any suggestions from council to how to address this.
Right. Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being none, then thank you, Warwick. We'll now go to Rika Percival-Smith. Rika.
Gary. Percival-Gary, not Smith.
Oh, Rika. Gary Percival.
Gary Percival.
Why did I say that? Rika. Sorry about that. I'm just giving you a whole new surname.
It's okay. I'm not quite sure what my husband will think, but we'll just roll with it this morning. Good morning, Your Worship and councillors and staff. Thank you for the time to speak to you this morning about the Mercury Bay Community Board submission to the 2022-2023 annual plan. The board would like to submit in support of the introduction of boat ramp fees at the Whangapoa boat ramp. But we would like to note that as there is no dedicated parking currently available in this area, that the fee imposed should be for launching only. Continuing on boat launching and trailer fees, we do support the proposed boat launching and trailer parking fees, but just with the following amendments. We would like to see the proposed fee for boat launching, recreational boat launching, proposed to be $50. I think you have it in your submission, in the annual plan at 45 at this stage. And we'd like to see the the recreational boat launching daily fees to read. This is really just to separate them out. So there is a $15 fee for launching and a combined fee for launching and parking of $30. We would like to note that the proposed fees are for recreational users only and request that council consider a separate fee for commercial operators who use the boat ramps through a separate annual plan process. And that leads us on to the wharf fees. And the board is proposing that due to stakeholder engagement with commercial users of the Whitianga Wharf not being undertaken in the last 12 months, we would like to recommend that these fees be implemented in the next annual plan, they be deferred, and that we have adequate stakeholder engagement with some of those user groups. And I know that you had some of them speak to this morning. So that covers off our wharf fees. With regards to the capital works program, the board would just like it highlighted again so that everybody knows the fee reduction that we have, or the subsidy reduction that has from Waka Kotahi, and that is with regards to footpath constructions and street lighting improvements. I really think it's important that our community keep hearing this message so that they know why certain things aren't being done. And lastly, with regards to Matarangi land purchase, just in line with the resolution that the board passed on the 16th of February, we are very much in support of this and for the allocation of the $502,000 from our Mercury Bay Ward retained earnings.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Rika? So there being none, you've got off lightly, Rika. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So, Julia Maskell. Julia is online.
Kia ora koutou. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Julia.
Morena, Your Worship and councillors, thanks for the opportunity to talk. I'm just picking up on the last point raised by the previous speaker about the Matarangi land purchase. That's the only issue that I would like to speak to, and the only one that I raised in my submission. I'm speaking on my own behalf about public access to the spit, which is currently the holes number 8 to 18 of the spit at Matarangi. This is an area which is of great significance to people who come to Matarangi, not just the golfers. That's my point. The golfers are, of course, well organised, well resourced, and a fantastic group of people who have been working tirelessly to get a solution on the preservation of the open space on the spit at Matarangi. I'm extremely grateful to them. I made an affidavit in support of their court action. And I'm also very grateful to council for the amount of effort which staff have put in to try and help come up with a solution to the ongoing access to the spit so that it isn't turned into housing. So my point is simply this. The access around the edge of the spit has fallen away on one side. At the moment, it is not possible for the public to go around the spit. I was there over Easter and also Anzac weekend, and I hoped I would have photos. I don't, but it is not possible for the public to get around the edge of the spit any longer. So this has been a major attraction for people who live and visit Matarangi. Golfers can still play golf. They have 18 holes of golf to play. It's private land. It's been acquired privately, but the public aspect of it relates to, first of all, the fact that you as council are now looking at putting money in to purchase the holes on the other side, and which is to do with the lakes, etc. So you're now looking at putting a substantial amount of public money into the golf course overall. It may be that you get that money back through Three Waters. Who knows? Very clever if that's what's proposed. But the public also have, it's also of concern to council, the access, because there's a large development happening in Matarangi. There are a lot more people coming to Matarangi. There are a lot more ratepayers coming to Matarangi. It's not appropriate that the spit should become only accessible to private interest. That's my submission. That is what we're faced with because of the falling away and the erosion. Now, the Matarangi Ratepayers Association, again, I take my hat off to them. They've got an amazing scheme for dune restoration. I hope that that will be successful. At the moment, it looks as if it's an enormous battle. And of course, we've got climate change, we've got sea level rise, we've got more extreme weather events. The likelihood of the Ratepayer Association coming up with another way to get around the spit for the public, I would say has to be couched with some reservations. It is not guaranteed that what they're going to do will succeed in terms of dune restoration. Therefore, my submission was that in your dealings with the golf course and the new owners, would you please make sure that you build in into the quid pro quo for what council's putting in as ratepayer money? Would you please build in guaranteed public access around the spit? That means actually intruding probably on the existing golf course. There is a conservation aspect to this. When we were there at the last weekend, people were walking through the dock protected area to get around the spit. So people now are being driven onto the dock land, which is where the dotterels nest. They have, if they're you know how determined people are at Matarangi to get around a point. You've had that with the other side, at the other end of the beach, with the problem with the rock falls, etc., that you've closed up. You've now got determined people who want to get around the end of the spit. They are walking through the dock area. We need them to get back onto the pathway around the edge of the golf course. The land has fallen away. It's quite likely the golf course is going to have to reconfigure their holes so that the public can again have access around the spit for pedestrians and cyclists. Please make sure that you get that written in, guaranteed in your documentation of the arrangements about paying for the land at the other end of the golf course. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Julia? There being none, thank you very much, Julia. We have your message loud and clear. Thank you for your submission.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And right now, I'll invite Joe Malcolm.
Through you, Your Worship, we've just been told that Joe and Denise are both cancelled.
Okay, is Joe Cameron available?
No, we can't get a hold of him, but we have Jessie Brennan online.
Okay, Jessie, welcome. Page 193. Welcome.
Morning.
The microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to our submission today. So my name is Jessie Brennan. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor with Federated Farmers of New Zealand. So today, speaking on behalf of our Hauraki Coromandel provincial members. Unfortunately, our president, Mr. Rob Craw, could not make it today, but I'll do my best to speak to the submission and then allow some time for questions as well. So I guess the main thrust of our argument this year was really centering around 2022 is another quite uncertain year with everything going on. Inflation is on the rise. Everyone's battling that at the moment, and there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of regulation changes and a whole bunch of other things happening this year. So we encourage TCDC to think about how lower cost and fit for purpose infrastructure can really assist the community for the upcoming year. In terms of the proposed changes to fees and charges, we were neutral. Federated Farmers generally supports user pays principles, so yeah, we imagine that those increases will affect a minor proportion of our members, so it's not going to be a significant event for us. In terms of the harbour facilities and fees and charges, we do support the funding change to a more user pays system. Once again, we do like user pays, and we think it'll be more equitable for our members who may or may not use these facilities. In terms of the Matarangi open space land purchase, we really, in our submission, encourage council to think about must-do projects with kind of the uncertainty going on in 2022 and the upcoming year. In our opinion, we don't think that is a must-do project, and we supported option 3, which was to do nothing in that space for the upcoming year. In terms of the proposed rates increase, so there was a slight increase to what was proposed in the long-term plan for last year. We really just wanted to emphasise the fact that any increase does impact our members in terms of dollar terms more disproportionately than other ratepayers. So yeah, we really encourage council to think about whether that is a necessary increase, and yeah, if there's any options, I guess, for making sure the resilience of our farming communities can yeah, really continue, and I guess lower rates is always a good step towards that. So that's a quick summary. More than happy to answer any questions, and once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
So can I just ask Jessie, would it be fair to say that you pay about 4 or 5 times more than residential people for your rates and receive far less services for that?
Yes. Yeah, so, and I guess the main challenge that farmers have is I guess the distance and the accessibility to a lot of district-wide services that people who might be in more residential areas can really access. You know, I guess farmers would love to use more facilities or services that are available district-wide, but however, a lot of times it's more of a matter of getting to town and then actually having the time to do that. So yeah, really, I guess Federated Farmers is really concerned and supportive of, I guess, making sure that people pay their fair share for district-wide services, but tempering that with the fact that rural ratepayers in general maybe don't get to access those services quite as much as residential people do.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious, how many Federated Farmers members are there in the Thames Coromandel district?
I can look that up. I haven't got the number on the top of my head, but if you give me a quick second, I can look at that. If there's any other questions in the meantime, happy to field those.
Any other questions of Jessie? There being none, thank you very much, Jessie. Appreciate that. Have we got anybody else on?
So
Is Anna Ford available? No?
she's going to be here at 11:45.
11:45, okay.
And we have Kim coming in person, she's about 15 minutes.
I think Jessie's still here. She might have an answer to the question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to jump back in there. So we have just over 1,000 members in the area.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessie. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sally. So,
Thanks, more breaks until around.
Jane, coming up? No, we've done it with Jessie. So Anna, Erin. No.
Anna's going to be here at
Yeah,
11:45.
and Erin. So we've got 11:45.
And then Kim's coming in person, so she's about 15 minutes away.
Oh, good.
That's pretty good. So look, we just have to adjourn for
A couple of minutes.
a few minutes.
It was actually scheduled on this about block. We he was supposed to speak straight after Walk Title was decided.
Oh, so he's still waiting because he's got an individual one.
Oh, well, then we thought we were doing both of them at the same time.
No, no, it's all right.
Yeah.
Talk about second grade issues. Which
Right.
I think we do.
Oh, would you like to do that now?
Sorry, he should have shouted earlier.
Yeah, no, I think it was just miscommunication.
Yeah,
Ben, would you like to come and do that now, please?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, it's all right. You do your presentation now and then you're free to go. Thank you. Just as well you said something.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's got my submission in front of them?
Yes. Well, we read it. Yes.
Okay, because I put in an early submission and then I added a number of pages. Okay, hello everybody, you've met me before. I will introduce myself though, as far as this issue is concerned, and I'm talking about Te Karo Bay. I've been a permanent resident there for the last 8 years, but we bought our property in 1996 and it's been our holiday place since then. So I know this place really well. There are many issues and I don't sort of hold back from things that need to be done. I go and say things and I try to be as constructive as possible. I don't complain about things, but I try to get things done. So some of the things that I've been involved with was the first thing was getting a plan change for the place. There was an intent to go and turn this into coastal residential with 800 square metre subdivision, which of course it's not going to be all 800, but that was the minimum size. With the community board and the Courier community who all wanted that to not happen, we managed to eventually get it changed from that small urban type of development to coastal rural and 20 hectare. And although there has been development since then, it has been pretty controlled. I've been involved in successful environment court action against inappropriate subdivision that's been proposed in the area. And I think we've been successful in every one of those. Things like a subdivision, a 16-lot subdivision where mature kaitea were going to be cut down, where a driveway was going to go through the middle of a weak area that was approved by a commissioner, and it required us to go to the environment court, get expert witness to actually show that that was going to be a disaster. So that's involved with that. Wilding Pines. I managed to get $20,000 from to get contractors to go in and remove the wilding pines through the whole of the Te Karo area, and it transformed the place. The wildings are always much taller than the bush that's coming through, but once the wildings were gone, it was just amazing. It suddenly changed and became so much more valuable, and I think it was done principally so that people couldn't go and propose a subdivision and say this place is worthless. That increased the value dramatically. The Te Karo Bay historic boards. I did a whole lot of research about the tortoise and the buffalo that landed there and were taking out Kauri in the early days, and wrote the historic boards that are currently there. Hurikawa Grove car park. There's a car park there that didn't used to be there. It was just a rough piece of land that people would park there. But as it was really dangerous, because when you came around the corner, there were cars trying to get into that, trying to get out of it. It was a disaster. With a lot of talk with Lou Mackwell, we organised that car park to go in, where the land was flattened out. Base course was put in, and then a course over the top, and planting as well. It cost $3,000, and it was a dramatic change. What else? Less successful things have been trying to get DOC to do something about the pigs in the area, because the pigs are spreading Kauri Island, in my belief, and are also a threat to the growing Kiwi population there.
Also unsuccessful with some of the architecture that's gone on. It used to be that you could go to that beach and not see any houses at all. It's changed because housing has been permitted. Planners tend to go and work on rules. They don't actually see beyond the rules. They just see, oh, this can be done, that can be done. One in particular is a very large house that is sitting halfway up an incline. It could have been put further up and in a bit, but this is the area which was designated during the subdivision. The planner said, of course, it's not on the ridge line, so therefore we can't do anything about it. The reality is that from the beach, it appears to be on the ridge line. Anyway, so those are the things that I've been trying to do and have been as positive as I possibly can. Okay, Takaro is very, very different, I think, to just about every other beach there is. The locals call it their new chums. It's Tairu's new chums, and it needs special protections. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done there, but I think that before anything is done, we need to get the
1 minute.
So again,
You have 1 minute left.
oh dear. Okay, well, I shouldn't have said it or any of that. It's a very special place, and I think the most important thing is to determine that. It's a bit like getting a landscape architect to go and design how it should be, and I think that it should be a plan about how things are done. It shouldn't be Lou Bagwell, he does a wonderful job determining how things are done, or or anybody else. There should be a coordinated plan for the whole thing, not just for the reserve, for the road reserves, the whole thing, so that we have a coordinated approach to how it's developed. I think we've run out of time, so I think you're just going to have to read it. But if you look at the back page.
Well, then, can I help you? So what is it you're exactly wanting council to do in regards to Takaro Road?
I'm wanting to council to recognise that there are things that are going to have to be done, things like the car park and things like wastewater and so on. But most importantly, I'm asking that council engage somebody to actually determine how all that stuff's going to be, so that we coordinate an approach to it, and so it fits that natural character, that special character that is Takaro. On the back page, to summarise, I'm asking for this financial year that a landscape assessment is organised, it's authorised and so on, right? Asking for increased monitoring and inspections morning and night, because we have serious problems with fire in particular and freedom camping, and because we're so isolated and because there's so much bush, there's a real danger for us. Resolving camping on the headlands. Now, I've been talking to Lou about that, and it seems like that's likely to happen, but I'm putting it in anyway. Heliagris, Pampas and gorse control.
Right, okay. Well, you outlined those, I'm sorry, I have to stop you. You've outlined those in your submission, you've detailed all of these things in your submission.
So I've separated into what I'd like this financial year and the things that need to be done in the long term.
Thank you. So we'll end that there, and I'll ask, are there any questions of Ben in regard to County Lane? Any questions? Oh, sorry.
So I just want to check, have we got that submission in here?
Just in case Ben, do you want to leave the extra? We'll take it. We'll take what Ben's got there. And just see if Terry and Gary have any further questions. There being none. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate your submission.
All right.
Okay.
I will be submitting on the reserve management plan.
Thank you.
So the idea of coming here is to get some money so that we can get it.
Okay, thank you. Anna Warren. Available?
Yes, Chair.
Anna, you have the microphone.
Kia ora. First of all, can I check, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not very good on technology. Kia ora tātou, thank you very much for allowing me this time this morning. I'm speaking against the major report just released this morning, the New Zealand Sea Rise report, which I'm sure you will have all heard hitting the airwaves this morning. and it gives further credence to the submission I made to you. And my primary thrust is that every council decision from now on must be made with regard to the climate crisis, sea level rise and biodiversity loss. We're in a state of emergency, and I would really like to see our council become a leader, not a slow follower on these issues. I know in some areas that there's been some tremendous work, and I want to applaud the fact that you give financial support to our beach care coordinators, and I'm quite involved in beach care over here in Mercury Bay. It's a great honour to be able to do that work, but it sometimes feels like we're pushing the proverbial uphill as we fight all the people trying to curb our efforts. In particular, I would really like to request that the budget for the cycling strategy in Mercury Bay be increased immediately. I'm very, very impressed with and appreciative of the new roading people who have come up with a plan. This year we've had $28,000 to spend. We're still waiting for final approval for 2 very small sections of bike lanes to our school. But next year we've got $87,000 budgeted. Now, in the light of some $650,000 I see on the budget for motor vehicles for council, I think under $100,000 is pretty pathetic on taking action that will help reduce the greenhouse gases and the impacts of climate change. And I would really like to support our strategy being immediately adopted by all other community board areas on the peninsula. It's all in place. This whole strategy has been approved by council, so I'd really like to encourage that. I'd like to encourage a lot more action to counter greenhouse gases, and I've outlaid a number of ideas. Over the years, I've contributed hundreds of ideas how you could actively do this. And as a first step, can we please get some budget for planting trees along every footpath in our district? I don't know how well we'll succeed now. The temperatures are getting so high, but we really need more shade. And that is a simple way to further mitigation against the terrible climate issues we're looking at. And I do remind you, we've really only got a very short window now to start making active changes. The growth in the peninsula, especially over this side, is adding tremendously to our greenhouse gas. Plus, to say nothing about these huge fishing fleets going out with thousands of gallons of gas, which is not only adding to the atmospheric problems, but also the acidification of the oceans, which is another aligned problem. The other thing, you've read, I hope, my submission and taken seriously my inclusions. The other thing I want to mention is the social issue of housing in Mercury Bay. We have had quite a good cohort of younger people returning to our area, but the lack of affordable housing is just ridiculous, not only for the young people. For example, having to spend $300 plus to live in a double garage, to older people now who are paying $350 a week for a bed sit. I'm now on the Mercury Bay Community Trust, and we only have 9 pensioner housing here. The trust has been for a long time endeavouring to get assistance to find somewhere to put up more housing, and I do believe it's within council's ability to insist on making provision. Thank you. Council, could you please start making provision so that you will have people to wipe the bottoms of all these old people coming to live here? I'd love it if you had some questions of me.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Alma? There being none, thank you, Anna.
Kia ora, go well.
Thank you.
And I invite, is it Kim?
Yeah.
She's Mountain.
My apologies.
Welcome, Kim, you have the microphone.
Person.
Kim, you have the microphone. Unmute. No, you can't hear
Just
you.
a bit louder.
We can't hear you, Kim. You'll need to put your volume up on your computer.
I'm having a real trouble with that.
No, we can't hear you, Kim. You'll need to put the volume up on your computer.
It's probably more the microphone.
Yeah.
Volume.
Or help you.
Where is your microphone?
I've just tried to put it up. I'll just try on my phone.
I can hear it.
We can just listen carefully.
Yeah. Can you hear? I can hear.
Okay, well, look, they're saying they can hear you. I can't, but.
Oh.
Can you hear?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Can we just do your presentation?
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Yeah, they can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thames Coromandel Community Library finds itself requiring some urgent financial assistance to sustain our service in our community. I just was very encouraged to read your own statement in your long-term plan about libraries and how important they are for supporting cultural and education needs in our community. And also the local government amendment act where they are really focusing on well-being at this time. And our library reaches out to a group of people who don't necessarily join the local groups and clubs that are around, and also some high needs people too. So in terms of their well-being and our inclusiveness, I think that's really important to let you know. Our little library's been in existence for 150 years plus, and the local community actually built that building and then ceded to TCDC in 1981 to secure our tenure. The library is run by volunteers contributing about 2,000 hours, probably more, but that's what we could track each year. And we do get an annual community grant from the community board for purchase of books and maintaining our subscriptions at an affordable level, which we're very grateful for. During the time of our tenure, we've paid over $20,000 out of our own funds to recarpet the library, to repaint the roof, to put thermal protection on our windows, and that has meant that the library is a pleasant place for volunteers to work in. So that's just the context that we find ourselves in. In 2019, the committee took the opportunity to join the Kotui library system to link in with all the other TCDC libraries. My colleague Jim Sharp, who's our treasurer, has just arrived, so he will link in as soon as he can. Okay. So this is the Kotui system also meant that our volunteer librarian who contributed full-time hours to us resigned. She no longer felt that she was able to do the extra work involved with the computer work. So we then employed a part-time librarian for 20 hours a week at $25 an hour. As at 31st of March 2022, we have paid out a total of $66,000 to our paid librarians.
1 minute. You have 1 minute.
Pardon?
You have 1 minute to go.
Oh, God. We are begging you for money as in our printed submission. We need funding of up to $20,000 to secure our library function for the next 12 months while we seek ways to fund it in a sustainable way.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Martin?
Yeah, hi. So I'm just reading about the courier charges. Has there been any thought to being able to work with council staff that might be travelling backwards and forwards between Thames and Coromandel to facilitate that?
We have explored all the options to us, but I'll let Jim speak to them.
All the books that see into the Thames Library and they realise
Sitting at that hand.
He's not sorting.
She introduced him as part of
That is not our community using that expense. We are paying for the other TCDC libraries to access our books. And now we're paying, out of very reduced funds for that service to them.
Okay. And just sort of a follow-up question, but also on the same sort of line. You also talk about broadband access, and you're currently paying $95 per month for Spark Wireless. Has there been any discussion with TCDC about linking into their network?
It has been mentioned. I know about it. We have been wired up for fibre, and now on fibre, which will provide a much better service, will actually increase the cost to $100 a month. So, phone links on top of that as well, so that would be $125 a month communication.
Okay, thank you. We have your submission, so thank you both very much. I now invite Erin Griffith. Erin, you have a microphone.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. I was just going to run through a little wee presentation. I'm representing Waikato Screen today. And I'd like to tell you how the Waikato would socially and economically benefit from having a regional film office. Is it possible to share the screen at all?
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh, hang on. What happened to you? All right. It's shrunk. Now, how can I share that screen?
There's a share option just at the top. You'll see the leave button, and there'll be the share option to the left of it.
Is it share today?
Yep.
Can you see my screen at all now?
No, we can see you.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got it now. Good girl.
Okay, hang on.
Far away. Lots of very nice photos.
There we are. Okay, so that's us. Sorry about that. I am going to probably take a little bit more if you, sorry, don't mind. I'm trying to smash this through. So as I said, I'm here today to talk to you about the screen industry. So Waikato Screen is a regional film office that we're trying to get up and off the ground to represent the Waikato. So a little bit about the screen industry is 3.3 billion comes into New Zealand from the industry. And we only get 170 million of that. And if you take it by our GDP, that we meant to get 8.6%, we're currently missing out on about 100 million. So how come we receive so little? It's because we're one of the last remaining areas in New Zealand without a regional film office. All these films on the right, by the way, they are all New Zealand made films. Okay, so just a little bit about the impact of film and looking at some numbers. So the 3.3 billion is not just the actors and directors. Don't get me wrong, they definitely up the budget, but the film industry itself has many people working in it, and in a medium to large production, it has about 32 different roles, creating up to 700 jobs. So if you look at the credits at the end of a movie, you'll see quite a few. That's 33% of the whole budget generally, and 60% of the budget generally goes into below the line. So below the line, that's your construction areas. So the construction is obviously quite vast with its builders, joiners, painters, labourers, electricians and everything like that. And something like Mortal Engines, which was the latest Peter Jackson movie, had 67 different sets. Accommodation is huge when they're going out onto location, which is what a lot of the Waikato work would initially start with. Mulan obviously had quite a few people, and they reported to spend 10 million on accommodation alone. So also just general trade and retail. Mulan used 2,130 vendors, and something like Power Rangers, which is a small series, they use 1,200. And the list goes on with all the movies that come out. And New Zealand is still a hotspot for movies. Yes, it cooled with COVID, but it definitely has powered up. So this guy here, he did a whole business making eco bottles for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So gaming is something that's obviously getting huge in the world. Here's Call of Duty, and 50 million went into that production, and everything that's shot needs to be actually...
Erin, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry for interrupting, but I'm unsure whether the council chambers has had a power cut. So Jenna, are you able to confirm if you can hear me? No, sorry, the message coming through is that the council chambers has had a power cut. So if you can just pause your submission, we'll just wait for them to restart.
Oh, thanks so much for letting me know. How long ago do you reckon they cut out?
12:05, the message came through, so maybe a couple of minutes ago.
Okay, all right, I'll wind it back a little bit and then they can tell me where to start.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
That's
I hope
okay.
I'm not talking too quickly.
No, and also, I'm not sure if it was related to the power cut, but I couldn't see if your slides were scrolling, but it might be related to the power cut.
So could you see any slides at all?
Oh yeah, look, it's Gary Gottlieb. I'm on Teams, and I can see and hear you, but I'm not in the council chamber. And
Okay.
Terry, is that the same for you as well?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, same for me, Gary. Yeah, I can see the pictures well and hear her, but I'm not in the chambers as well. I'm in Perth.
Nice.
Right, sorry, Terry.
Looks like you're back.
Look, we've had a generator trial matter going on, which has conflicted slightly, but that's now over. And
Super.
we're going to allow you to start all over again.
Oh, all over again. So did you get any of it?
Yes, we absolutely, we got everything up until the amount of advantage, the amount of jobs people there are and the different roles. We
And
got
film.
to that. Yeah.
Had you got to the construction area yet?
No.
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 So pretty much what I was saying is with the film industry, yes, there's about 30 different roles in a medium to large film and up to 700 individuals within those jobs. And that's 33% of the whole budget of a film that is used above the line. But below the line is about 67%. And I was just going to run into what that is. So below the line is, for example, your construction work for your sets. And for when they go out there and they're on location and they need things built, they need your joiners, your painters, your labourers, electricians. And I was saying Peter Jackson's movie and Mortal Engine had 67 sets alone. Accommodation, which within the Waikato, we'll be getting a lot of more location filming if we get up and running. Moulon spent about 10 million in accommodation alone on their people. So retail and trade, Moulon used 2,130 vendors, and Power Rangers, which is a small kids series, they use 1,200 vendors. And as the list of films goes on, so does the list of vendors. So, and this guy here, he did an entire water range of eco bottles just for the Hobbit trilogy. So,
Erin, we can't see your screen anymore. Can you reshare it? Yeah, I don't know. Something's gone wrong with the technology. Imagine that. Thank you. Yeah.
We can see your screen fine, so something's going on with the council.
Let's just keep going. He's very clear verbally.
Okay, cool.
Erin, we'll just get your presentation afterwards and we'll share it with the councillors. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Is that sharing to the other people now as well?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not sharing now with us, sorry.
It should come back on again.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Is that the council chambers as well?
Yeah.
Cool.
You just need to
Right.
play it. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
That's all right. Whiz through that. There's the film people, there's the construction people, there's the accommodation people, the retail people, and gaming. So gaming, people don't think of the screen industry and regional film offices being and linking in with gaming, but this particular game here, that's Call of Duty, and they spent 50 million making it, and everything that's before it's animated needs to be shot somewhere, and it's getting more and more popular in New Zealand, pretty much. So I'll just run through super fast other areas which are all impacted by film. And there goes the last one with picture is in 1999. Matamata was best known for its horses and farming, and it's best to say it's known as Hobbiton now. And prior to COVID, it was having 78 million pumped into that district, which isn't a bad return for having a film there. So, okay, so Waikato Screen, Regional Film Office, that's what we are. It is really important that you have, like, it's quite an integral thing, because a lot of these huge companies won't use an area that doesn't have what they call either a film office or a regional film office or film commission for the area. So when they come to it from another country, they need to know where to go to, who to talk to, who to hire, and help navigate them through the different legislations and permitting areas. So we also help with them within the industry, the government, and with the community. So without a regional film office, the local crew are not utilised, and that's what's happened to date in the Waikato region, and local businesses are not used to their full capacity, and the financial benefits of having the films are not realised to their full potential. So, and a good example of this is Disney did a film last year called No Exit, which they did some shooting in the Tokoroa, believe it or not. And we influenced them. They were going to stay out of town, and we said, actually, you should really be staying local if you want to use these local resources. And also, they were bringing their toilets down, their traffic management down, everything from Auckland. And we said, let's see what we can do to help you use local. So they used local hire pools and where they could, traffic management companies, etc., so that people actually started benefiting from that area rather than being from out of town. I think with Hobbit, they bought 130 vehicles up from Christchurch carrying even farm animals, which, because there was no link to the businesses in the local areas, they had to find their way through, and it was easier for them to just use their connections out of town. So we want to change that. In Tokoroa also, they had to chop down some weedy trees that were going into some power lines, and the council said, no, we don't want anything replanted, because they said they'll replant natives. And we said, oh, back up, why don't you put that to the local school? So they did a environmental project with the school and donated the native plants to there instead. So a little bit about Coromandel, you're known as the gem of the Waikato. So that was said really badly, sorry guys. It's got a really diverse type of people in the Coromandel, and you've got a lot of people working within the film industry that aren't collated together, so we can't use them or utilise them as part of a Waikato crew, which is what we would like to get together. To date, we've worked in the Waikato with an international blockbuster doing some experimental stunt work in the Northern Coromandel, but I can't still to this date talk about it. And also we've worked with location scouts for commercials. We've done a rod and gun commercial, and Netflix Gold Diggers was heading your way. So that's pretty much what we do. We improve the communication. To date, we have been a reactive film office. So we're only there when people come to us. We haven't done anything to promote the areas, but we are working with a lot of location scouts. We're having a lot of good feedback and keep coming back to us. When we are funding, of course, our main job is to improve the communication so that everyone has a pleasant film experience. People, if they don't know about the activities, and haven't asked for the right things from councils, it can turn into a shambles. And that's what we don't want. We want everyone to enjoy the films being there and enjoy them to enjoy filming there. So we want to stimulate the economic development by linking our local businesses to the productions. And we aim to have an industry similar to the billion-dollar industry in Auckland, which employs 7,500 people and involves 1,800 businesses directly to film. We want to support and promote our talent and keep our highly skilled workers in our area, and make sure that the crews that live in the area are collated on a database and they're linked to the projects that are happening. And that information is only privy to New Zealand, to the regional film officers from the New Zealand Film Commission. So that's before films are made public. So, and of course, we want to showcase the beautiful area to the international directors, location scouts, etc. And we have a lookbook that we do that through. We also advocate for ecological ethics to make sure that they think clean and green as they're going forward. So this is the areas that have a film office. This map was actually done when we started this last year. And since then, they've also added Whanganui, and Marlborough now has a film office. So we really want to get Waikato on the map. So we have got great advantages over our competitors, and that's that we are close to the Auckland International Airport. We have our beautiful, versatile landscapes here. And a lot of those are amazing backdrops for many different countries. So, and even fantastical lands. So we have our population of film experts. We've got a good infrastructure. We just don't have that connection to the film world as well as it should be. So where are we now? So we've been going for funding, and we were pretty happy with our win last year, getting the Regional Council's Regional Development Fund. We've offered to fund us for 3 years for 50% of our overall costs. Unfortunately, it hasn't been released yet, which has made things very tight. 50% of our, the other 50% where we're getting our funding is 50% from the private sector and 50% from the TAs. To date, Well Energy has been very supportive. South Waikato has definitely sponsored us for different legal fees and a business case update. And as I said, we're just waiting for this regional council funding to come through so we can actually really get off the ground. So our respectful request, we're asking for the council to acknowledge that we are the regional film office of your area, and to support our ongoing operations, and that we have a relationship with the council, but with TCDC we actually do with Kirsten. So she's been good and helped us along the way. And we're just asking for a sum annually of $7,202 the next 3 years, which is 2% of our overall cost. Also, if we do have a very specific project which is going to be for your area, whether it be specifically for employment, getting the youth involved in film, etc., we would ask that you participate on focus projects, possibly financially. So we were asked, where do we see ourselves in the next 10 years? We want to make ourselves a fully funded film office and triple the multi-million-dollar film economy in the Waikato. We want to help jobs, grow the jobs businesses, keep our highly retained, highly skilled crew here, raise the morale. I don't think it's so much, you know, like a lot of areas are a bit depressed in the Waikato, so we also want to help raise morale and profile, and also get our youth involved in this industry that's really looking for workers, and it's a really interesting industry. So we want the mighty Waikato to be known as the heart of screen production. So,
thank you. Right.
There you go.
I'll ask any questions.
So, so initially you're looking to be the sort of coordinating for the area, but then also going out advocating this area to producers and film companies and things. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, we've got as I said, it'll be working with the location managers that are. The Waikato's got a bit of a bad reputation for film because they've struggled with different legislations and they haven't had someone to help them in that area. So the location managers haven't been that great on coming here, at least it's for very specific things. And now we're starting to get a reputation with the location managers, which we want to encourage. And then from there, we'll be going out and advocating for the area. We'll be with all the regional film officers when we do promotional activities and bits and pieces with our lookbook and show reels, etc.
And sorry, just a follow-up question. So do you think that you having that role may make it easier? Like if a film company approached the council, they might find difficulty in having that resource, but you'd look to be that resource to assist the council with doing filming in the area?
Yeah, so what happens is, so for some of the productions, they're wanting to do multiple districts. So it's going to be yourselves and Haraki and say Matamata-Piako. And so it's for us to tell them which is the council they need for these areas, what they can do, how they can work those areas, and what we can do to help them to make all of that easier. For example, if you've got a Chinese company coming on, they don't really understand different things, so we help navigate them with that.
We spend a fortune on destination content.
Okay,
Thank you.
are there any other questions?
Do you have a relationship with Destination Coromandel?
Yes, we've spoken to them. They've spoken to them and they've also come to some of our meetings that we've had with Haraki District Council.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Appreciate you putting up with our glitches with technology. So thank you very much for your support.
Okay, thanks very much for letting me go for so long. I appreciated that.
Well over time, I might add.
All right, cool. I'll blame it on the
Thank you, everybody. I think that concludes today's hearings for the annual plan. Thank you so much. I now close the meeting.